Hello everyone, my name is Auro and welcome to the 18th devlog of Mortal Glory 2, a turn-based gladiator roguelike. This week I started with very quickly adding these item slot visuals, so now you actually know what the different item slots with the characters do. So one weapon, one armor and two accessory slots. And then I added these usable items in the accessory slots that will also have charges. And the first one I added was this javelin. So basically, instead of equipping a ring or an amulet, for example, you can equip this like javelin that you can throw once in the battle. I think adding items like this will really enable me to also add a lot of new variety to the game. So I'm imagining that the skills that these items will give will be completely unique, so you cannot get them any other way in the game. So yeah, one very simple use case is this javelin I added that will enable maybe your melee characters to have also a easy to reach range skill to use, and it will likely be quite powerful also because it will only have one charge. So yeah, so once you use that in battle, then it will be, the item slot will be useless for the rest of the fight after that. So obviously it needs to be somewhat powerful, and I then also added this like healing potion that will, yeah, you know what healing potion does. It will heal your character. And then maybe as somewhat more unique usable item, I had this item that will reset your current cooldowns. And I imagine that will enable a lot of interesting combos in the game. So maybe you have like a super powerful skill that has a long cooldown, so now you're able to use it like twice in a row, which I imagine will be interesting to play with. As with everything else, I will keep adding more and more of these items to the game. Then next I spent quite a bit of time on the design table, and first on the task list was designing the progression in the game. So, for example, how the first fight in the game will differ from the like 15th fight in the game. This is something that I think is very tough to get right, and so that it also feels balanced. In the first one I basically did quite a bit of trial and error, and after that I just hard coded all the like different variables, like how many characters that team can have in a specific phase and stuff like that. But in this one I wanted it to be more dynamic and flexible. So what I ended up doing was basically to have this one float value from 0 to 1. It's at 0 when you are at the start of the game, and it's at 1 when you are at the end of the game. So it's a variable for the overall progression of the game. And I will basically base all the other decisions on that variable. So yeah, as it grows closer to 1, the enemy teams will have more units, more skills, more equipment, more stats and all that stuff. I think the best part of doing it like this is that now I can basically like stretch or shrink the gameplay as much as I want and still have the progression be like hopefully make sense with that context. So the progression is the same whether it's 10 fights or 30 fights for the whole run. Obviously it's faster with the 10 fights, but yeah, it still grows linearly during that interval. Then next, related to the design also, I work on these extra challenges. So I had the functionality before, but it was only for adding extra units to the enemy team. So basically I had different types of extra challenges, like making the enemy stronger, making them have buffs, making you have debuffs and stuff like that. So I also had to design the difficulty adjustments to those. So again, when you're closer to the end fights, the challenges will be more difficult and will have higher rewards also. Oh yeah, and as a side note, I also have this extra challenge called Add Beast in the game, and at first I had typoed it as Ass Beast, and yeah, that was pretty much the funniest part of developing this. And yeah, maybe I'm immature, but it almost makes me want to add some ass beasts to the game. At this point I was also kind of bored with the other stuff, so I quickly added these 2 new skills to the game. So one is this Dragon Spread that will basically spawn fires in front of you, like in a direct line towards the target. And then I also have this Combustion skill that will just light up one freely choosable tile with fire. Always fun to have some more fire skills. Then next I started working on this really funny addition that just randomly popped into my head, and that was to add some very specific features to the environmental hazards I have in the game, like the fire tile. And to be more exact, like 2 new functionalities. One is spreading and the second one is moving. At first I had this idea that hey, wouldn't it be cool if the fire could spread, and ideally it would also just do that in specific situations so that it's not too powerful. But then it kind of expanded in my mind that hey, I mean, why not make it so that the other environmental hazards can also spread? I think this can lead to some very funny variety like interactions. Like for example, I can have a perk in the game that will make all the tiles you spawn have spreading or moving. So yeah, I already had some funny interactions, like you have this feature with your character and then you get hit with something and spawn blood on the ground, and it will then automatically gain like maybe moving. So yeah, it will just start to move on the ground by itself, and it's kind of a funny thing that maybe will spawn some very interesting and funny interactions in the game while playing. At least that's my hope. There were a lot of edge cases I had to figure out with the spreading and moving. For example, what if fire moves into a water tile? What happens? Does the water get extinguished? Does the fire get extinguished? I wanted to make it super simple and straightforward what would happen, so I had to make some compromises on like on the logic you might think in your head, like okay, but what if there's super much water, what will happen? No, I will not even consider things like that. So for example, with fire and water, now it's so that okay, the fire will always eat up the water in the ground and not be extinct. Then I decided I would quickly add 2 new special rules to the game. So Inferno, which will spawn fires to the whole battlefield at the start, and then also no mana cost. So yeah, 2 quick additions that I think will bring more variety to the game. Then, inspired by the Inferno special rule, I decided to add a few more fire skills to the game. So yeah, first I added this Dancing Flames, which will basically randomly spawn fires within this AoE, and as a special feature, all the fires spawned will have the moving feature by default. So yeah, even if the fires do not spawn on top of you, you might still want to move out because you never know if the fire next to you will just then move under you next turn. Then next skill I add this fire starter, which basically is a magic missile kind of thing that you launch at your opponent, and then as a special feature it will spawn a fire next to that unit, and that fire will have the spreading feature, so it will start to spread from there. And then as the third and last one, I added the skill version of Inferno, so yeah, basically the same as the special rule but just in a skill form. I think soon I will need to start adding some more non-fire skills to the game, since those are basically the only ones I have now been adding since they're so fun to play around with. But yeah, I will soon start to add some more different kinds of skills. And hey, that's actually everything I have for this devlog, so as per usual, if you have any comments, feedback, suggestions, I would love to hear those in the comments below. And yeah, otherwise, hey, I thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.